Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for is finally here. Tyler's Oh Damn Moments of the Week are back. I know Tyler's pumped about it. And Tyler, go ahead and take it away.
Oh, damn. We're back, baby. Baseball's back. We've had a week and a half or so of baseball, and it was a busy week and a half. It was hard to just pick 4 topics to talk about. It was a great opening week. So much fun. I can't wait to get into this. But first off, right off the bat, I want to have a couple of honorable mentions before we get into the nitty gritty. We mentioned earlier in the podcast, Joe Musgrove threw the first no-hitter in Padres history in front of a large crowd in Texas. Awesome moment. For those that don't know, Joe Musgrove is a local San Diego kid. We talked about how romantic baseball is. How romantic is it that the local kid threw the first Padres no-hitter in their history? That's pretty awesome. So congrats to Joe Musgrove, and congratulations to the Padres for finally joining the club. They were the only team in baseball that did not have a no-hitter. Number 2, Yermin Mercedes from the Chicago White Sox started his MLB career going 8 for 8, which is an MLB record. This guy is absolutely on an absolute tear. I believe he leads the league, or he's close to the top 5 in hits and average right now. Also a great story. He was just he was a Rule 5 draft pick. For those people who don't know, that's not even like a regular draft pick. He just got picked up. Just had a really, really long, great career or rough career going through the minor league. So seeing success stories like that is pretty awesome. So hopefully he continues that success in Chicago. And my last honorable mention is Dodgers got their bling. They got those World Series rings, and that is an oh damn moment for sure. Alex, real quick, just you're the other Dodger fan. Did you watch the whole ring ceremony? Just your thoughts on those rings.
Yes, I did watch the whole ceremony. It was pretty awesome. I mean, I think we talk about how there are players that you just feel like are deserving sometimes to win a ring. Ovechkin, when he finally got his first ring, everyone was just like, other than fans that hate the Capitals, like, okay, he got his ring. That's awesome. I feel like, even for you guys who are, Angels fans, you kind of have to feel that way about Clayton Kershaw getting his ring, the smile on his face. If Mike Trout ever wins a ring, I will feel exactly the same way. I'll be like, that guy, well, finally fucking deserves it. Kershaw, with just everything that went on, Dave Roberts losing Tommy Lasorda, it was awesome. And the rings are super tight.
Super great. Yeah, there's a picture of Kershaw when he first got his ring, and the look on his face was like a kid on Christmas morning. I mean, you just gotta love that. Super pumped for Kershaw. He obviously got probably the loudest and longest ovation of any of the players, which is well deserved. So let's move on to the nitty gritty. These oh damn moments. The number 1 was Major League Baseball decided to move their Midsummer Classic All-Star Game out of Atlanta in response to the Georgia voting laws that were recently passed by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. These new laws restrict voting to especially to some minority communities, and it was a very heatedly debated topic. It was kind of this. It was one the commissioner of baseball was, debating whether to move the All-Star game out of Atlanta, Georgia, because of this. Ultimately, he decided to do that. The All-Star game for 2021 will now be held in Coors Field in Denver. So that's going to be held there now. It was a very interesting decision. So Alex, you have the kind of the head on this one. Just real quick, I just want to get your thoughts on the decision, and do you agree or disagree with what MLB decided to do?
It's tough because, generally we try to keep sports and politics separate, but it's in this day and age, it's impossible. I mean, tonight, as we were speaking, every team in Minnesota canceled their games because there was another police shooting, and they deemed it unnecessary. They deemed it not, they shouldn't be playing. It's not what we should be focusing on. So, you're right. The Georgia voting restriction law was hotly debated. People are upset on both sides for specific reasons. It's now MLB is it's almost as if they're taking their stance on the side of this debate, which is fine because, what it kind of seems like is, it is making it harder for minorities to vote, which is one of the reasons, if that Georgia flipped from red to blue, and one of the reasons Biden won. Georgia was kind of the big swing state this year. And now, those Republican lawmakers are now making it seems that way harder. It will be hard to tell what will really happen with that, until there is another election. But at the same time, it loses a lot of money for the city. The city and the state, that brings in a lot of attention, a lot of business to, small local companies and, businesses. So that is, kind of sad on the other end. But I think on baseball's part, what they had to worry about was, okay, what if, Mookie Betts decides he's voted into the All-Star game and he decides to boycott it. He goes, no, I'm not going to play. And then that becomes a steamroll, and all these other players then boycott. And then there's this whole big fiasco. So I think on the part of MLB side, they sort of got forced into doing it because the All-Star game brings in a lot of money, brings in a lot of attention. So they kind of got forced into doing it. Moving it to Colorado to be on a lighter side is going to be fun. I mean, first of all, the home run derby in Colorado, I'm really hoping Shohei, the Angels will let him do it, because Shohei hitting bombs in Colorado would be super cool. Like, what if Trout and Shohei both do it? Trout's never done it. Shohei does it. Like the two Angel superstars battling out in the home run derby, hitting 530-foot bombs in the rare air in Colorado. Good luck to Denver and the Rockies on setting it all up in about 3 months. That seems super tough. So we'll give them a break on that. But in either way, MLB kind of got forced into doing it. Whatever your views are on this voter law can be your own. I just think it was going to be really tough in case players started boycotting. They can't really reschedule an all-star game to be a 7-inning doubleheader the next day, like we did when, players decided to sit out for the Black Lives Matter movement. So unfortunately, baseball kind of got forced into doing it. Kind of a brutal thing, but hopefully Shohei is in the home run derby. That's what I'm hoping for now.
That would be great. Yeah, it was a tough decision. I talk shit on Rob Manfred a lot, and don't worry, I'll talk shit on him a little bit later. But I will give him credit for how he handled and went about this decision-making process, because obviously, like, keeping the All-Star game where it was supposed to be is the easiest decision, or the easier decision. But I think he did a really great job of kind of getting the vibe from the players and listening to the players and getting their opinion on it, and kind of making the decision based off of that, not based on what was easier for him in the league, which is very unselfish of him, which I'll give him credit for. So I think that was the way he handled it, and the way he went about making the decision, I think was really good. Whether or not you agree with it, that's your opinion. But I do want to give credit to Rob Manfred. And the next topic, I'm going to shit on again, so don't worry, it'll balance out. But it's a pretty wild decision there. I do feel for the Atlanta fans. Obviously Hank Aaron, they're one of their best player of all time. Passed away not too long ago. Then you lose the All-Star game. Their opinion of it, obviously they disagree with it. They were hoping to use the All-Star game as a platform to talk about all the issues with racial injustice and all that. So I can see arguments on both sides of why it would have been the right decision to keep it or the right decision to move it. It's a tough one. So you let us know your thoughts. It's a pretty interesting one. So moving on to my next oh damn moment. We got our first little scuffle of the season with with division rivals. The Reds and the Cardinals got into it a little bit. Nick Castellanos received a 2-game suspension, which he's currently appealing. So just to break it down for you, here's kind of what happened. Cardinals pitcher Jake Woodford hit Castellanos on the first pitch of his at bat. Later on the inning, Castellanos came around to score on a wild pitch by Woodford. Castellanos headfirst slide into home plate where Woodford was trying to tag him out. Castellanos was safe by a good amount. He stood up, flexed his muscles, and screamed, "Let's go," pretty much directly at Woodford. And then Castellanos just kind of walked away and just kind of pumped up his teammates. But then Woodford and Cardinals catcher Yadier Molina, who seems to take offense to everything, went after Castellanos and, kind of incited the benches to clear and had this whole fiasco. And Castellanos the whole time is just kind of just walking away, just being like, what happened? Like, what's the big deal? But ultimately, MLB decided that Nick Castellanos is the one that incited that whole issue. And he received a 2-game suspension. As I mentioned, he's currently appealing. So a pretty interesting situation that went down. James, I want to know what your opinion is on MLB's decision to suspend Castellanos.
I think it's stupid. Like, the suspension and the fine, stupid. Like, you're allowed to have emotion. You're a human being. If you get pumped up, go ahead and do that. If you're going to suspend and fine everybody who has some sort of reaction, you'll be suspending starting pitchers all the time. How often does a starting pitcher, like in the bottom of the third inning or so, they get into like a rut where they load the bases and then they're one strike away from getting the inning to be done, and they throw a strike, and with either if it was looking or the guy whiffed on it, the pitcher has emotion. The pitcher will probably do the exact same thing that Nick Castellanos did, probably flex and say, "Let's go," but they don't get in trouble for it. I mean, the fact of the matter is he did it because he was emotional. There was no malice behind it. It was just a reaction. The dude scored. He got into home plate. The close guy there was Woodford. All right, flex on him. Cool. He walked away. Why is he getting suspended for it? Why is he being painted as the bad guy as he walked away, did not initiate any physical contact whatsoever, just kind of did his thing? He got in trouble because the other team got butthurt. That's stupid, man.
I agree with you 100%. What's wild about this is, MLB the last couple of years has kind of had this slogan of called "Let's let the kids play," right? So kind of, getting rid of these old time baseball, unwritten rules where you can't really showboat, you can't bat flip, you can't show emotion. They're trying to move past that and, have a little bit more emotion in the game, which I think is a good thing. I think that's going to move the game forward. And then something like this happens, right, where Nick Castellanos just, scores on a wild pitch after getting hit by a pitch and, screams, "Let's go," walks away, isn't trying to, create any kind of situation. And like you said, you're right. It was more Yadier Molina and Woodford's reaction that created the benches to clear than it was Castellanos's celebration. Then you suspend him for 2 games. It makes no sense to me. I think it's a really dumb decision. I think it was short-sighted. I do not agree with it at all. I think it's horrible. I hope Castellanos gets the suspension lifted. I don't think it'll happen, unfortunately. But Nick Castellanos keeps showing that emotion. It's wild because I feel like this happens in the NBA almost all the time when a guy dunks over a guy and he flexes and screams, "Let's go," and that's just how it is. And in baseball, that happens, and the guy gets a suspension. That's the problem with baseball culture in a nutshell. Is these things aren't allowed, and that needs to change. So hopefully, people will start to see that. I had no problem with it. I don't know if anyone else on the podcast had a problem with Nick Castellanos' reaction or not, but yeah, I think that was pretty poor judgment on the league's part. All right, so moving on to my third oh damn moment. Trevor Bauer is currently being investigated for using a foreign substance on a baseball. This is a really juicy topic, and this might go on for a little bit, so just bear with me for a second. This has a lot of history and there's a lot of things going on. Traden, you're going to kind of help me help the podcast kind of talk about this one. So just a real quick recap of what happened. So umpires removed a few baseballs from Trevor Bauer's start last week in Oakland and were sent to MLB for investigation. Apparently there was a sticky substance on the baseball. This comes after a league memo before the season started announcing that they're going to be cracking down on foreign substances on the baseball. Many people around baseball believe that Bauer is being singled out. And this is mainly because Bauer kind of raised this debate a couple of years ago and has kind of been kind of the head guy in terms of the players who've kind of been the forefront of this whole foreign substance on a baseball issue. So and just kind of to recap on that, his whole thing was that baseball doesn't really enforce the rule of having a foreign substance on a baseball, even though it can dramatically increase the performance as a pitcher. You can increase spin rate, you can increase a lot of things, and the more spin rate you have, the more the ball breaks, the faster you can throw it, all these different things. And he basically pretty much called MLB out and said, if you're not going to force it, then I'm going to start using, a foreign substance to increase my spin rate. And that was in 2019. In 2020, he won the Cy Young. His spin rate went up. This creates all this kind of, MLB's like, oh damn, this is probably the reason why this is going on. Maybe we should crack down on it. Bauer gets his big contract. Now all of a sudden MLB is trying to, the first guy in the first week of the season that they signal out is Trevor Bauer. I don't think that's a coincidence. But Traden, I want to know your thoughts on this whole situation. And do you believe that the league is specifically targeting Bauer on this whole thing? Just your thoughts.
Absolutely. They're calling him out on it, or they're targeting him because he brought it on himself. He brought it up and made the MLB look like idiots. He has said multiple times, he's proven that this is a problem. Look, he is getting 300 to 400 RPM more than he was in 2019. It's absurd. And they haven't dropped it this year, and he's only pitched one or 2 games, right? Or 1 game. But the issue that I have is that now he's being all quiet about it. He was so verbal about it, and specifically against Garrett Cole, who is his long-term rival back at UCLA. Garrett Cole has obviously done it. But here's the biggest thing is that I would say 80% of pitchers do this. I would say 80% of pitchers do this, and the MLB is not doing anything about it. And Trevor Bauer is very vocal. He's very social media-esque. He has a YouTube channel. He probably has a TikTok. He probably has all this shit, and he blows it in your face and just shows you exactly what the issues are and how he feels. And I think the main issue is that he's the only one that's been vocal about it. Every other player has been quiet about it, and unfortunately, it's been part of the game. Unfortunately. The MLB is trying to punish him because he made the MLB look like idiots. That's what I think. But now he's being all quiet about it. I don't even really like the guy either. He's kind of an asshole too. I mean, I don't think he's that great. And I worry about him because as soon as you take the substance, which it's interesting because the pine tar has been a thing. Sandpaper has been a thing in the past. I mean, you guys know more about it than me. I watched another 20-minute video on this. What's interesting is I'm pretty sure that he probably has the best of the best in terms of formulas for this substance on the ball because he studied it. He's almost like the DeChambeau of baseball pitching in that he studies it. He studies the RPMs. Let's look at his stats before 2020. He's average at best. He ain't that good. And all of a sudden he's good with this substance that I think he's figured out a substance that's easier to hide. I mean, some guys are putting it on their necks, their hats, it's clear as day. And that was before HD. When now you can't get away with anything. I think the main issue is that they are absolutely calling him out because he tried to call the MLB out. They didn't do anything about it, and he literally admitted to cheating without admitting that he cheated. He proved it with. I mean, I think in one game where he actually did the thing for 1 inning, his RPM shot up, and then he stopped it the next inning, and his RPMs went down to normal. And then he tweeted about it and basically admitted it without actually saying, "Oh, I did that." Yeah, dude. I mean, they're counting him out because MLB is like, dude, you're talking about this. No one else is talking about this, just you. And now he's actually doing it. So that's why they're singling him out because you don't want to look like a fool, and MLB looks like a fool once again.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer is not afraid to stir the pot. That's why a lot of people do not like him. But he brings up some really interesting conversations and a lot of really good points. And he, honestly, he's a no bullshit kind of guy. He's like, dude, this is how it is. He literally tweeted out what his ingredients for his foreign substance is. He tweeted it, word for word, like this, put a little pine tar, put a little this, put a little that. That's what you get. That's how open he is about this kind of stuff. And also, to be clear, like, pitchers have been doing this forever. This is not a new thing that's been going on recently. Foreign substance on the baseball, pitchers have been trying to get away with this stuff for a very long time, and for the most part have. Like you said, probably 80% of pitchers probably do this. That's probably a pretty accurate number. A lot of guys have been, accused of doing it. And the other point to this that I kind of want to bring up is that pitchers for a very long time have been trying to urge the league to legalize some sort of substance for pitchers to use that's not illegal, right? So that they don't get in trouble and they don't have to hide it, because pitchers are doing it anyway, and so it's kind of the similar thing with batters. They have pine tar, right? So that the pine tar helps them grip the bat, which obviously kind of helps them to swing the bat a little bit better than they can without the pine tar. Giving pitchers a certain kind of substance, is beneficial for them as well. But to legalize some sort of thing, for me, in my opinion, that is the whole reason behind the crackdown. So I think they're trying to get a sense of what everyone's using and trying to come up with a consensus of what can be legalized. I could be wrong about that, but that's kind of what my opinion on that is. I don't think a lot of pitchers are going to get suspended unless it's how they've been suspended in the past, where it's like they get caught red-handed. For example, that guy that literally had pine tar on his neck and was doing this during the game. Like, yes. that's no.
And it's shiny.
That. Yeah, it's shiny. Like, you can't be doing that. Pitchers, it's pretty easy to hide it. So as long as you can get away with it, I don't see how they can prove that Trevor Bauer put that substance on the baseball. You can assume, but you can't, in a legal.
It's pretty clear.
How are you actually going to prove that?
That is true, but the stats don't lie.
Right. No, I'm not saying he's not using. He's definitely using a form.
You're right, though.
He definitely is. I think a lot of guys are, but I'm saying, like, how is the league actually going to prove that in the legal sense that you use this form, you put this substance on this baseball? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't think that there's going to be a suspension. There might be. Trevor Bauer starts tomorrow night. We'll see if his RPM goes down or not.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
If he can't do this, are you worried that you're giving him $40 million and he's going back to a 4.5 ERA?
I think Trevor Bauer is going to do it anyway. I think he doesn't. I don't. If he gets suspended, let's just say if he gets suspended and he gets fined for using a foreign substance, he's going to figure out some other way to get around it.
Fair enough.
But am I worried about it? Maybe a little bit, just because, like, as you mentioned, Trevor Bauer was a very average pitcher. Just kind of, you never know what you're going to get. You're going to get good Bauer, bad Bauer. You're going to get a Bauer that goes out there, shoves it for 8 innings, or you're going to get a Bauer that's going to give up, 5 runs in 2 innings. You usually never know what you're going to get. But obviously, he's been very good the last couple of years. His first 2 starts were very good. So we'll see. Alex, you got any take on this one?
Traden, I think you nailed it on the 80% thing. I think there's MLB pitchers that you think of that are wholesome and good guys, that have better reputations than Trevor Bauer does, and they definitely use it. Michael Pineda was the guy with the neck thing, by the way. I think he is getting targeted a little bit. He and Rob Manfred do not get along. That's no secret. Trevor Bauer is very unspoken. I've watched some of his YouTube clips. He will call people out on shit. That's his whole thing. The other problem is with this is the pitcher's the only one that's going to get in trouble, but it could be the catcher. It could be an infielder. It could be the ball fucking hit part of the bat that had pine tar on it. Like, it's tough to know. I mean, a couple years ago, we saw a ball in the dirt and Yadier Molina, it hit him in the chest protector and stuck. Yeah. Literally like there was glue. And because that's what catchers do, they hide some sticky shit on there, because when the ball is in the dirt, it hits their chest protector and won't bounce as far away because it's sticky. So baseball has a long history of cheating. I mean, you look at the Black Sox, that was 100 years ago. You look at the Astros, that was 2 years ago or whatever. So it's part of the game. I like the idea of it being a controlled thing. batters allowed to use pine tar. They have the rosin. Part of it too is like a safety measure. They get better grip on the ball. They can, they can locate the pitch better. No one wants to get hit in the head by a 100-mile-an-hour fastball that slips out of somebody's hand because it doesn't have pine tar on it, or whatever sunscreen or secret fucking whatever thing they're using. So, I think it's going to be a storyline to continue to watch throughout this season. It does not surprise me that Trevor Bauer's name is the first one that comes up, though. Not even in the slightest.
Yeah. James, Eric, you got anything else on this one?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, this is highly, highly, highly improbable. But what if it's not the pine tar that's making Trevor Bauer that good? What if his finger game just got really strong and is just like flicking it like?
No, he is. He's
just flicking.
It is impossible. You're ad, dude. Yeah. It's
impossible for a human to physically do that.
He's just flicking a little bit more.
Yeah, flick it.
Love that. Just flick it.
Just flick it more.
It's like a bop it.
He went from 23rd in RPM to first. Yeah, I don't think he's over a season. I don't think he learned something new.
It's like if Usain Bolt gained 10 miles an hour more on his sprints.
Yeah,
it's like there's obviously something going on there. That's
Traden the comp to DeChambeau.
23 miles.
The comp to DeChambeau. I mean, I don't know shit about golf, but from what I've learned from Eric and you guys, and what is his nickname again? Like the professor or something like that. Yeah. Trevor Bauer studies the game unlike anyone else I've followed closely enough. Like he has all these color codes for what his body does. It's extremely scientific. So if there's one person I think that could change their spin rate, it is Trevor Bauer because he pays attention. Where guys like Kershaw don't really pay that much attention because they don't have to because they've been so good for so long. Where Trevor Bauer has been mediocre for the first 8 years of his career, and then now has picked it up. So he's probably and most definitely is using something, but he granted is doing at least some of the work to figure out how to improve his spin rate.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very interesting topic and we can talk about it for a very long time. I think it's super interesting. I'm really curious to see what Emily's going to do with the whole Bauer thing. I'm waiting every day to see if they're going to make some kind of decision. As I mentioned, he's starting tomorrow night. So we'll see what happens. So moving on to my last oh damn moment. I'll preface this by saying it is extremely early. Obviously, everyone compares the baseball season to a marathon. We're literally at the point, 2 seconds after the gun goes off the starting line and everyone's still walking because it's so crowded. That's where we're at right now. But there are a few teams that are off to some really hot starts and some teams that are off to some really cold starts that may not have been expected to do so. So I want to start with the teams that are hot. A couple nationally, a couple in the American League, all entering today had a 6-3 record and are either in first place or tied for first place in their divisions. And that is the Reds, the Phillies, the Angels, and the Red Sox. So these are all teams that we kind of discussed in our preseason segments that, we're either, we didn't expect them to do much at all, or we're kind of a fringe team. Maybe they could do well, maybe they won't. So I'll start. So Eric, you're going to help me out with these. Of those 4 teams that I mentioned, off to pretty good starts. Do you see any of those teams staying hot and potentially fighting for a playoff spot or make the playoffs by the end of the season?
I would say I'm more confident in the 2 American League teams that you mentioned, the Angels and the Red Sox. First off, I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but shout out to the Angels fans who threw the trash can on the field when they were playing the Astros.
Love that.
Because fuck the Astros. They're straight trash. They're cheaters and they deserve. We should start a petition every road game this year. Trash cans must be thrown on the field when they are in the arena or ballpark or whatever the fuck you call it. Angels are finally showing that they could hit and pitch at the same time. Let's hope that they can keep that trend. They beat the Astros in their second series of the season, and usually the first time they play the Astros, the last 4 years, they just get mollywopped. So that's a good sign. Like you said, it's really early. Dylan Bundy is in the top 4 list so far of quality starts for pitchers in company with second-ranked Kershaw. And Jared Walsh is in the top 15 of the batting list. Another guy, Junior Guerrera, is in the top 10 pitching stat list for them. So it's really early. It's way too early, but it's always a good sign when they're actually doing okay. Red Sox, they swept Baltimore and they proceeded to sweep the Rays. And they are second in the whole league in runs scored. JD Martinez, fourth in batting average, first in home runs, and first in hits. So the bats are going well for them. And they've shown they've done it before. So I'm not too worried about the Red Sox. I feel like they had a terrible season last year. So anything's going to be better than that. The Phillies actually are looking a little promising too. It's only 9 games in, but 4-2 against the Braves, 2-1 against the Mets, 2 teams that we said would be good. So maybe either we're wrong or the Phillies are actually good or both. But so far the pitching has been solid for them. Connor Brogdon ranked number 1 in wins. And then they got another pitcher, Jose Alvarado's in the top 15 for wins as well. And the last hot start team that you mentioned, the Reds, the bats and offense is clicking for them. Tyler Naquin, second in RBIs.
Naquin.
What is it?
Naquin.
Naquin.
Tyler Naquin.
That's a tough one.
That's
though.
a tough one.
Yeah. Second in RBIs, 14 of them so far. He's also third in home runs. Nick Castellanos.
Come on, bro. I said it earlier.
Yeah, I know. I heard you say it earlier, and I'm like, that's how you say it. He's ranked 11th in batting stats, and Jonathan India ranked in the top 15. So they got some good hitters and good batting going for them so far. I'd say I'm throwing my confidence in the Angels and the Red Sox of those 4 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that take. That's a tough question because, as you mentioned, it's very early. We're 9 games in a 162 game season. I think the team that has probably the most pressure on them to perform, I think, would be the Phillies. They've spent a lot of money in free agency. I think they need to win now, or they're going to go through a second rebuild. Their last one didn't really work out. So, the Phillies need to win. In terms of keeping their fan base happy, and it's just the amount of money they've been spending. Those other teams, they don't got much to lose. The Angels, I kind of like this team. I think that I was 50-50 on them to start the season, but what I've seen so far, I like. If they can continue to pitch the way they have, I think they'll be pretty solid. We've always talked about the Angels pitching. That's their Achilles heel. If they can fix that, they're going to be pretty good. And I think this division is very winnable. The Astros are also off to a hot start, but we'll talk about the A's a little bit in a second, but they're not off to a good start. So I think that division is winnable, and the American League wildcard race also is very winnable. I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be vying for that spot. So the American League, I agree with you. I think it's way more open. The Reds, I honestly don't think they're going to keep this pace. I think that they're going to fall out at some point. I think the Cardinals and the Brewers in the division are just much stronger. But that division too isn't that strong, but I just think that they're not going to keep that pace. So moving on to a couple teams that have been a little bit cold to start off the season. The Oakland Athletics are 3-7. They did take 2 out of 3 from the Astros, but they started off 1-7 to start the season. The worst run differential. They're making me look like a real dumbass more than I already am because I picked them to win the division. So they're not off to a good start. Granted, their opening 3 series pretty brutal. Astros, Dodgers, Astros again. But still starting off 3-7, not a good start. And then kind of the whole American League East division is like almost a mirror image of what we expected it to finish. So you got the Yankees and the Blue Jays there at the bottom at 4-5. Not off the great start there. So kind of the same question, but the opposite way. Do you see any of these teams staying cold and not being able to turn the season around?
It's so hard. It's like what you said earlier. We're literally 9 games in.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off your other question. If I could pick 2 teams to put confidence to turn it around, it's going to be the A's and the Yankees. The A's, we all said they were going to be a lot better. So far, it's only 9 games, one of the lowest ERAs. 6.39. Bad pitching means bad team, means bad record, means no wins. But that's only, like you said, you got to take in consideration Astros, Dodgers, Astros. That's tough. So we'll give it some time. You know, they're going to play some other teams that they probably match up better against with. I have a feeling they'll turn it around. They got the guys that can get it done to do that. Yankees, the only thing that is good for them right now is their pitching. Actually, their pitching is pretty solid, 1.73 ERA. But they don't really got the bats going. Plenty of time for them. I believe they will be okay as well. They have some weapons. Usually it seems that hitting isn't their biggest issue, but lots of time. I think they'll be all right. Blue Jays, we all were optimistic about them. But you can see they're still a young developing team. They did score 2 touchdowns on the Angels over the weekend. Beat them 15-1. So 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion, James. But 1 2-point conversion. But you know, they could have used all those runs in other games and maybe they'd have a better record right now. Their one positive is Steven Matz, 1.46 ERA. So they got one guy who could pitch for them right now, but they need more. They're just a young developing team. They kind of remind me of the Angels a few years back, getting all these guys out of their farm systems. We'll see how they do. I don't have much confidence in them as I would the A's and the Yankees.
Yeah, again, tough question. As I mentioned, you know, it's so hard to tell. Obviously, you know, the A's did not look good, but taking that last series from the Astros kind of helped me kind of spark confidence back in them again. Yankees and Blue Jays, I think they'll both turn it around as well. I think all 3 of these teams will be contenders. You know, they're just off to, you know, slower starts. Blue Jays are dealing with a lot of injuries. Yankees, I just feel like always get off to a slow start. It's just kind of their thing, and then they eventually, you know, pick it up. The A's are probably be the team I'm most concerned about, just because it was kind of a stretch for me to pick them to win the division. I just don't like the Astros, so I was just hoping for some team to be better than them. But their pitching, every asset of their game to start off has not been good, but I do think that they will clean it up. So hopefully that happens. But yeah, so early off in the season, got some oh damn moments there for you guys. We'll be coming with these, you know, every few weeks. This was obviously a busy first first week of the season, so there was a lot of topics to talk about. But yeah, James, that's all I got.
Thanks, Tyler. Just for everybody who's keeping track, the Padres are still within 10 games of the Dodgers. So I'm still on track to win $50.
There we go.
So far, so good.